just get settled in. Yeah, I'm Andy, I'm an addict. I'm in recovery and I'm grateful for that. I'm clean today, so far, which is all I've got. Thanks very much, Demetrius, for your share. I need to start off, I'll do some thank yous. All of a sudden I really need to wee. I'm drinking all this water and I suddenly really need to wee. But I won't. Promise, for the next hour or so. I'm going to I need to thank my sponsor, the committee here. It's been a fantastic convention, right? Pretty much. I mean, I wasn't all night. Some people were up all night dancing. Not looking at anybody in particular. But it was great. The music was great last night. The speakers that I've heard so far have been fantastic. The committee, the organisation. People from all over the world are here, right? What Dimitri was just saying about, like, it feels like a drag to, for me it was like, oh, it's such a drag to go to Birmingham. It's like 2 hours away for me. And there's people who have flown in from many countries and spent a lot of money and time and effort to make this happen and to support me and to make this an experience for me. So I need to check myself before I wreck myself about that kind of stuff. Gratitude for all this that's been put on. I'm going to try some good mornings in a few different languages because there are some different languages spoken here. And what they say, our symbol, the pyramid, right? The wider the base of the pyramid, the higher it can go. So the more diversity we've got, the higher up we can go, right? And the closer to our higher powers that we go. So I'm going to try. I don't even know if anybody here speaks any of the languages other than Lithuanian, Russian, and English. But Guten Morgen, if you're Dutch. Bon dia, bonjour, of course. Buongiorno to anybody from Italy. Buenos dias. Guten Morgen. Dobre utro. Is that Dobre utro? And Dobre utro. And Salam alaikum and Shalom for anybody here. I know there's some Israelis around. Yeah. It's great to be in a European convention particularly, and I love European conventions. So I've been asked to share on step 11. I've just been doing some yoga in the other room, so I'm all like spiritual and bendy and actually that I'll maybe come on to that later, but that actually does feel like meditation for me sometimes, connecting with my body and doing physical stuff like that, and being good to myself in that way is sometimes a form of prayer, and it quiets my mind. It's a kind of meditation. So our 11th step is we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Improve. So it's saying that we've already got a relationship there. We made a decision in step 3, right? So we've already got a relationship. And our literature says that relationship will revolutionize our existence. That's the phrase it uses, revolutionize our existence. And I found that to be the case for my life. From where we've all come from to where we are today and where we're going, that's a revolution. And that's from a higher power. And it mentions a few examples of how we might experience that higher power or God in our lives. And it lists a few things, and those are things that I would come up with immediately as well if asked about how I experience God as I understand that word. And it says, and this is from, I think it's from our step working guide, this selection of things. It says, perhaps in nature, when we meditate, when we're with people in NA, for me also when I'm with family and loved ones, at times I feel that. And I feel it within, you know, I feel God within me when I'm listening, right? You know, and it lists some of those things. And there'll be other things for other people too, you know. And there's going to be things that I'm going to experience in the future that will tap into that. But I think the important thing is that we're looking for God. And I would encourage you to look for God in your life, wherever that comes. And I'm telling myself to do that as well, you know, to look for good, not look for the bad, not look for the other stuff, not look for the, I don't know, shiny stuff or whatever, you know. But to look for the good and look for God. And we find it in all, you know, in all different places, and sometimes in unusual places. And you know, I've been very moved this weekend just from a few shares of newcomers. Oh, I need to welcome the newcomers and any non-addicts that are here. If there's any non-addicts in the room, I don't know, there's a little press statement and stuff about visitors. But if there are any non-addicts in the room, you're very welcome. You know, I hope you learn a bit about NA from being here. And if you're new, a special welcome. All this talk about God or whatever might freak you out. It certainly was a bit of an issue word for me when I first came to NA. But you know, it says in our reading cards, we were looking for something different and we thought we found it in drugs. And I was definitely looking for something different in my whole life. You know, I didn't want the normal. I didn't, like Dimitri's saying, I didn't want to be treated like normal. I thought I was royalty too. I still do sometimes. But I was looking for something different. And I did look at religious stuff and spiritual stuff and drugs and a whole load of other stuff. But I was looking for something different. And drugs was an answer for me for a while. It was the solution. You know, and then it becomes the problem. But I definitely need a spiritual guidance. I need a spiritual life that I need to develop. I need to look for the spiritual, and I need to grow and develop it as an energy in my life. Because I'm not spiritually well. I definitely wasn't when I got here. One of my good friends in recovery, he talks about having a little spark, you know, a little flame inside when he first came around, that was like his inner voice, was his higher power talking to him, and it's developed a little bit, you know. And that light that does come on in people's eyes, it's a bit of a cliche, but we do see it in others. We see that spark of life in people when they arrive in NA. And they don't want to die, and they don't want to go back out, and they don't want to use again, and they don't know what else to do. And we give them a hug, and we care for them, and we see them coming alive. You know, we see them getting well, and that's an experience of God for me. It tells us that in our literature, it tells us, and it's page 27 of It Works How and Why. It tells us that God gives us a path out of active addiction. It is our path out of active addiction. So, you know. And, I mean, going way back, I did a bit of research on this, and going way back, like before there was any 12-step fellowships, there was a guy called Carl Jung. Like you've heard about Freud, maybe, and Freudian therapy and stuff like that. Carl Jung was another big, important therapist guy. And he was seeing a guy who was an addict for a long time and giving him therapy and talking with him and trying to help this guy out. And this guy sort of got a bit better for a while, and then he went away and stopped with this treatment and got really messed up again. And when he went back to Young and was a mess, Carl Jung said to him, okay, none of these methods are working for you. None of this therapy stuff is working for you. No, none of this seems to be doing anything. He was a successful guy, he was a businessman, blah, 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 blah. But none of these methods worked for getting him well from his addiction. And Carl Jung said to him, you need to have a spiritual experience. That is your last chance. Nothing else is working. And this guy went on to actually, do that and get clean. And this is before any 12-step fellowships. But he was onto something. It was quite early on, just before 12-step stuff came around. And he also started helping other people as well, and that was an important aspect of what he did and how he stayed well. He started helping others. I've got some notes, because I don't want to wander off too far. As Dimitri was saying about action and taking action and doing things, step 11 for me is it's a discipline. And it uses the word discipline quite a lot, actually, in our literature about prayer and meditation. I was really surprised how much the word discipline came in, actually, in the chapters about it. I was like, discipline? Ugh. I really don't like that word, and I don't want to do it, and I'm rebelling, and I'm like, discipline? What's a discipline? I don't have any discipline, blah, blah, blah. It talks about it being a discipline, a daily discipline. And I think I'm gonna put in the discipline to certainly work the steps and try and pray and meditate like every day, daily. I think it's been a long road already for me doing it. I'm going to try and do it for the rest of my life. And it does help me in so many areas. It helps me to settle my body and my mind. Because I don't know about you lot, well, I do know about you lot actually, but I'm pretty scatty. Like, I'm all over it. I'm like as a person. Naturally, my brain is da-da-da-da. Dimitri talked about waking up and having an enormous fear. Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm having lots of feelings going on, lots of thoughts going on constantly. What do I do with that? Like, what do I do with that? And if I take drugs, it just fuels that even more. And I bounce around. I bounce around in life. And one of the things that meditation helps me do is it helps root me and ground me and slow me down. I focus on my breathing. Really simple stuff, simple spiritual stuff. And it's definitely the solution for me. Prayer for me is a bit trickier. I'm not a member of any organisation that's got religion or any of that part of things. So prayer as a word for me, I struggle with a little bit. Again, I try and keep it simple. I do pray. It's part of this program. But I generally say please in the morning. I say thank you at night. The gratitude prayer of thanks for another day clean is perhaps where I leave it there. And it says in our literature that this process may save our recovery someday if we do it. It says it will save our recovery someday when we'll need it. You know, when we'll be at the edge, when we'll be close to, as Dimitri said, we'll be close to using, we might be close to relapse. And it tells us in our literature that prayer and meditation may save our recovery. So I do some on a daily basis, and I have done for a few years now. I mean, I've had time around, and I've read about it, and I listened to you guys talking about it. I tried to do it inconsistently, and that didn't work for me. And it reminds us about that in our literature, that if we do, it's better to do a little bit every day than try and do, an hour once a week or something of this stuff. So, daily, I get up and I do it whether I want to do it, whether I don't want to do it. Like Dimitri was saying about the inventory, sometimes it's just like blah, 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 blah. Sometimes I'm going through the motions with my meditation, but I do it. And as Dimitri said, it's like a reset button, It's like a reset button on my day, on my head. It gives me a bit of space. Come in, Guy, come in. Guy, come in. Don't hang at the door at the back. Like we were doing at the dance last night, we were hanging at the back, weren't we, by the doors? I see you. Come in. Yeah, I mean, one of my experiences of God is that I'm clean. I'm clean, I'm in recovery, I looked at my eyes this morning in the mirror, and they're one's a little bit bloodshot, but my eyes are pretty clear, And I remember what I did last night, and I know my name and where I am and stuff. It is a miracle. I do like it, and it says we'll be anchored through difficult times. And I've definitely been anchored through some difficult times by working this program, and this step in particular. I can access peace of mind wherever I am, whatever time of day. I do meditation in my car sometimes, in a car park, outside a 24-hour Tesco's. It seems not a spiritual place, but wherever I need to do it, that's where I do it. Talks about how we might feel it in the love of our friends in NA, like Mr. Guy here at the back. My sponsor as a guide, I guess one of the sort of slight paradoxes with the spiritual stuff is that I can only access it through my body. And I kind of struggle with, I struggled with that early on. I used to think I could think my way to spiritual and make it like a mental exercise. And it seems that the weight of the spiritual stuff is through is physically, I have to sit down and stop, and that helps me to get spiritual. I can't think my way spiritual. That's what I'm saying. How am I doing for time? Got a bit more time? 10 more minutes? Okay. Okay. So, I was going to talk a bit about service, because one of the things that, I guess looking at the spiritual things, it talks about, and what we have here, because we're not religious, but we are spiritual. One of the things that the spiritual groups in the world seem to have in common is to serve others, doing stuff for others without wanting something for ourselves. Now, I think how much of that we do and how we do that varies for everybody in this room. But it is a principle of NA to serve. And it's in a lot of our steps, traditions, concepts, literature. It's in every group. Dimitri was talking about the guy still making the tea at 20 years clean, whatever. It's integral to what we do. And it is in lots of other spiritual traditions too, and groups and stuff, to serve others. But that's one of the things that this prayer and meditation stuff kind of helps me think about and put in perspective. How am I serving others? What do I do out there in the world? How do we love one another in here and out there? I can say I love myself today, but there's also things I do that I hate about myself. I hate myself sometimes too, and that's just how it is. And the way I feel about myself varies daily, but to me, the spiritual stuff's guiding me towards loving myself too, as well as you lot. So I want to tell a story about a little bit about service, and it's NA related, but it's not about an NA member. So I was at a meeting. In fact, people in the room actually that are here might have been there when this happened, but it's something that stayed with me a bit, and I've talked about it to a couple of people. I was at a meeting, and it's a place where it's a church, not that it matters, but it's a place where people go and get food, like a soup kitchen type of place. And I used to go to them places when I was using to get a free meal, because I had more money for drugs. Not that it matters, but there's something about those places that whenever I go to them in NA meetings, it humbles me, because I remember going there as a guest, if you know what I mean. But it was as we were leaving the meeting, a guy pulled up in a car, and his wife was sat in the front, and it was quite a nice car. And they opened up the boot of the car, and they had loads of tea bags and big coffee jars and massive bags of sugar. And the guy was like taking them in to the church and giving them to the soup kitchen. And we helped this guy with his stuff to take it into the church. And then he just drove off. And I said to them at the church, I was like, who's that guy? And they just said, oh, there's still good people in the world. And he never said who he was, or wanted a badge, or he might have gone back home and boasted about it to all his friends and stuff, but I don't think he did. And I don't know how often he did that. Maybe he did that every couple of days. Maybe he did that every week. And he wasn't an NA member, but he was doing some service for the community that he lived in. And I see that around me. I'm looking for that stuff today. I'm noticing that stuff. And I'm noticing when people are doing service in here as well. So thanks for all those people that do that. And that seems to be what this program's guiding us towards. As well as a personal experience of God, also the way we serve in the world. I guess the theme of the convention is life beyond our wildest dreams, and sometimes when I pray and meditate, and I do really get peaceful. That's what I was looking for all the time. Inner peace, however we want to explain it. Sometimes I'm there, and I feel very lucky to have that experience and share that with you. So I'd encourage you to, if you're not regularly praying and meditating, try it. The 90-day thing, I'm going to pick that up. That's something I'm going to take away from today. Doing a step 10 every day for 90 days. So maybe try that with your prayer and meditation. You know, if you don't do it regularly, maybe try it every day for 90 days. And you can have all the chaos back or madness or, you know, inconsistency or whatever if you want to stop. But it's working for me, and I keep on doing it daily. But it's also a process, as Dimitri said, it's also a process, and it takes time. And I find meditation very difficult. I find it very frustrating. I'm very impatient. And I want to make it complicated. It's really simple. I just sit and I breathe and I watch my breath. But I want to make it complicated. I want to, you know, overanalyze it and all that stuff. It's really an honour to be here. It's weird to come up and speak with a mic and stuff like that in a big room with all these chandeliers and stuff. When I first came to NA, and I wasn't as young as DJ here, but I thought I was really young. And I remember being at a convention and hearing amazing, funny, witty, spiritual, emotional speakers and thinking, oh, I can never do that. I can never get up there. And then I heard some kind of boring speakers and I thought, yeah, I can do that. That's not a problem. I've got that. And then I'm up here now, you know, and I don't know if it's been whatever, you know, how it's been for you. I've worried about this a little bit, but it's made me read a lot about literature again and think about stuff and put things in perspective, which is personal growth for me. Yeah, you know, being clean for me right now, the world is beautiful and it is full of life, and this weekend's been full of lovely people. It is amazing if we stick around. You know, there's people like I haven't seen for 5 years, 10 years, a year, a few months that I've seen this weekend, and it's been really lovely to connect with people. And that's the feeling of love that I feel flowing around in this room and out in the corridors. And it is a life beyond my wildest dreams. I do feel connected. I do feel a part of something. I am one of the lucky ones, and I think I'm going to leave it there. Is that enough? That's enough. I'll leave it there. Thank you.